Hello people, it's a beautiful Friday morning here in the city of Jos. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies on Eco Television International, where we look at various stories trending from our Nigerian newspaper. I'm your host, Elisha Dashom, and I have my co-host with me, Rachel Tansey. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Seren.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday.
So excited about that. Yes, we're live on Facebook and also on YouTube, so you can do well to drop your contribution on any of the story that is of interest to you. Let's move straight to the paper, starting with the first one, Rachel.
On the Nigerian Tribune, I did not say Adebanjo is no longer acting leader of Afenifere. This is coming from Fasoranti. Infrastructure education held prioritized in 310 billion naira Oyo 2023 budget proposal. Barons after our operatives, Marwa raises alarm. State House 2023 budgetary provision almost 50% less than 2022 budget, Permanent Secretary lament, and you can read that on page 2. And the big story on Nigerian Tribune, there will be no cabal in my government. This is coming from Atiku. Says we have moved ahead over face-off with 5 PDP governors. Atiku in talks with 5 APC governors coming from the campaign organization, and you can read that on page 2. Awujale, 51 other Ijebu traditional rulers endorse Abiodun for second term, and you can read that on page 3. INEC deploys 19 new recs. Adeniran, Salami, Abaje take charge of Oyo, Ekiti, and Oshun. You can read that on page 3. Again, Emirates suspends flights to Nigeria. Still on the Nigerian Tribune, Jigawa, North Bayelsa, worst hit by flood. This is coming from the federal government. Youth kicks against traditional ruler in Ondo for refusing to perform rituals, and you can continue with that story on page 19. APC to flag off presidential campaign in Jos. The writer says no link between Tinubu's manifesto and Abiola's Hope 93. APC campaign council tells PDP, with me as president, Kogi will get what is due to it, Tinubu assures, and you can find that story on page 3 and 4. And there's a picture story where we can see Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State and his deputy governor, and you can find that story on page 19 of the Nigerian Tribune, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. We have on the strike, ASU raised eyebrow over selective payment of medical lecturer salary. That you can find on page 3 of the Vanguard newspaper. Bayelsa not among the 10 most flood hit states. This is coming from the federal government. Then I begin to ask questions. If Bayelsa is not, how comes so much light has been hit on that state rather than Jigawa and other states have been affected? Okay. And I think it's high time that every other state that have been affected will receive also the right attention that's given. We saw where about 10 million naira was given to Kano, because I believe they have also been affected by the flood and others. So if we are having the federal government saying no, Bayelsa is not among the 10 most flooded hit states, imagine the picture we have seen of Bayelsa. So imagine how Jigawa and other states have been affected. So I hope that the federal government will, rush over to all those other states that have been affected. Whatever they are needing, the palliative delivering to them and any other, relief material that can actually help them, attention will be, be given to those states that have been affected.
And you wonder, why was Jigawa State silent about them being the most hit by it more than Bayelsa? Then it boils down to the government. Like, if as a governor of a state, you come out and say, this is what is going on, I think others will hear you, the federal government will hear you. I believe that's what happened in the case of Bayelsa. The governor didn't keep quiet about it. Like, you keep talking about it, letting people, this is what is going on, and then we need aid. But I guess if nothing is coming from Jigawa, we wouldn't know, because we're not there. We depend on reports from those states for us to be able to know what's going on there. And then that's how the whole country will know that, what Jigawa is going through more than what Bayelsa is going through. But I guess because on their side there wasn't much about that. So if as a state you're going through something, we need a report from you, because we're not there to know. Is this report that we rely on to know that, you know, things are not going on well there. So I believe the government of Jigawa should come out and say how badly this has affected them and how they are also in need of help the way Bayelsa got help.
Of course, Rachel. Let's look at other stories still on the Vanguard newspaper. Foreign capital inflow to production sector up by 83% to $457.7 million. That you can find on page 19. The big story, which is on Vanguard Agro-Business Roundtable. Insecurity policy somersault threatening food security. This is coming from expert. And the writer says advocate focus on security of lives and properties. BOI, DBN, Fertility Bank helps on increased collaboration. And I hope that we really look into that too. And we have on the $700 trap fund. Again, Emirates Airlines suspend operations in Nigeria indefinitely. That you can find on page 14. On 2023 presidency, our position on same-faith ticket stand. This is coming from the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigerian source, and they are against the Muslim, you know, ticket and all of that. And on a ferry, Fatoranti recants says Adebanjo acting leader. That you can also see inside the paper. Gombe government ban underage inter-local government night grazing. I'm really happy, and I hope other states will also take the same lead. With me as president, you will get what is due to you, Tinubu assures Congonites. And then we have on drug baron, killing NDLEA operative, Malwa raises the alarm. That you can also find inside the paper. The picture story here we can see is the commissioning by President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, looking at that happening in the Niger-Cameroon border. And you can read more of that story on the commissioning of the road and also how it will, you know, boost the economy of Nigeria. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On the Daily Sun, Kanu asks Supreme Court to quash stay of executive order. Stoppage of Abia's AFDP loan. OT Light, a Pezu aid, and you can read that on page 2. And the big story still on 2023 polls, INEC puts recs on watch list, bars them from contact with government houses, promises not to disappoint Nigerians. Okoa explains why Tinubu Obi can't rescue Nigeria, insists on Atiku. Buhari approves release of 12,000 tons of grains to victim. I failed as Minister of Education. This is coming from Adamu. And the writer says other sex education expunged in schools curriculum. ASOB and SSNU parents express mixed reactions, and you can read that on page 8. Oshun Tribunal admits BVA's report, other document tendered by Oyetola APC, and you can read that on page 6. With me as president, you will get what is due to you, Tinubu assures Kogi people. Still on the Daily Sun, making Obi president, no tea party. This is coming from Adebanjo, and the writer says Atiku remains Nigeria's best option. This is coming from Okonko. On the downside of the paper, still on PDP crisis, I've moved on. Atiku insists IU won't resign, and you can read that on page 8. And there's a picture story of students of junior secondary school Jabi 2 Abuja during a health education symposium on HIV awareness and stigmatization in Abuja yesterday. And that's all the news on Daily Sun.
On Daily Independent newspaper, federal government target Chinese Portuguese loan to complete the Kanu Marada Rain project and others. Governor Wike inaugurates 100,000 SA on political units. And the big story, 2023 presidential election, 5 APC governors in talk with Atiku Abubakar. This is coming from the PDP, as PDP hallucinating will soon 20%. And if you want to know some of those percentages that have been cut off, you can read that story on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper. I will sell refineries to businessmen if elected president. This is coming from the Irwa laments. And on block funds again, Emirates suspend Nigerian flights, and we need to know how that will affect our aviation, sector, and what we can do to actually, look at the funds that have been blocked there. To General in U.S. Army, this is really great. I'm really happy the way Nigerians are really representing, the nation, being good ambassadors outside. And so funny. It's not like I'm being biased, but it seems as if more women are doing Nigerian great. We have the likes of Ngozi, and we have much more others that have actually represented Nigeria in diaspora. So I'm really excited and happy looking at the fact that this Nigerian woman has been promoted to being a general in the U.S. Army. You know what that means for the nation. And I think that is where we need to take a lead. If we are having Nigerians doing well outside the country, why can't they do the same in the country? This is something that will really, give you lots of cause to worry. But I hope that we'll look inwardly and see if it is about the welfare and also the atmosphere, then we need to do something so that Nigerians can feel better at home and also perform to their, their maximum best at all times.
Like, we can't overemphasize the fact that it feels like we're doing better out there than here. And this is the sad part, because you know what? Somebody is reading this and saying, I think I should japa. Because in as much as this is a good news for the country, Nigeria is out there, it still paints a picture that we're doing better out there than here. Because it's not easy here. You find out that there's a lot of success stories for people who are out there achieving greater heights than what we have here. Business people are not finding it funny. Nobody is finding it easy at the moment in this country. So you wonder, there's two sides to a coin. One of the sides to this coin is that some people are having more reason to say, you know what, I need to leave this country. Perhaps that's the only way I can succeed and achieve my dreams and become who I want to be, because it feels like it's not happening like that. While the other good side of this story is that she is putting Nigeria on the map, and other people that have achieved a lot are putting us on the map and showing that, greatness can come out of this country too. But whatever is the side of the coin you choose, though, just know that you're still a Nigerian. And even if you japa, just go and make us proud there.
Of course, of course. Still on Daily Independent, we have on the floor Jigawa, Anambra, Kogi, worst hit states. This is coming from the federal government. Says Bayelsa not among the 10 most impacted states. There will be compensation for farmers, and I hope farmers will hold this word dearly to know that what will be the compensation. I hope that it will not be a situation that it's on the papers and then we don't walk the talk at the end of the day. So we look forward to see that farmers are really compensated for the flood, the crops they've lost during the flood. Downside of the paper is a security threat. Efforts restrict movement at base in Lagos Airport. That you can also find on page 7. We have a picture story here. Do well to get the Daily Independent, read any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Matrix newspaper, Nigerian drug users more than population of 4 African countries. This is coming from Marwa. This is truly a sad one, and something needs to be done about it. Like, parents need to start looking out for their children, because this report is very sad. And let's tell ourselves the truth. You don't even need anybody to tell you. You see how many youths are on the street. You see how many are abusing drugs. You see how many are using drugs. And from the look of it, you know that this child is not healthy and is nothing but just drugs. They are losing weight. They look unkempt. They are slow. You can see all the symptoms written all over them. So it is a sad thing, but something that can be done about it, because, like, how can our population be more than 4 African countries? Then it means that will be accounted for a lot of millions, not just hundreds of thousands, but it means millions of Nigerians are using drugs. It is a sad one, but then I believe that when such report comes, it means that something can be done about it. And then this is not the job of the NDLE to do that. It is a report coming from them. It is a job of families. It is the job of NGOs that are into rehabilitation and all of that, to make sure that this thing is curbed. It is a job of the society. It is a job of our churches and other religious bodies. It is the responsibility of everybody to see that this population goes down, because it is a sad one. And what this gives birth to is crime, because we know what drug does to people. You depend on it to the extent that you can't school, you can't keep a job, obviously, so you don't have the money to sustain your addiction. leads to crime at the end of it. So it means that crime rate would increase if we allow this. So I just hope that everybody wakes up and play their role in helping solve this problem.
Of course, Rachel, while you were talking, my mind kept, going round with the number of youths, especially that we have that are under, influence of drugs.
Yes.
And just like you said, this is not just for the NDLEA, but this is, a responsibility for everyone.
Everybody.
Take a look at I think recently we saw in the papers the number of people who are going through mentally disabled, destabilized right now because of the issues that are happening, either family problem. In fact, the strike alone for schools caused lots of students to go into depression. Record lots of them that have committed suicide or have died through this drug. So just like you said, I think we have to really, really, really raise an alarm for the number of these, drug users in Nigeria alone. You begin to wonder what is happening. Where are we getting it wrong? How did these drugs get into the shores of Nigeria? Who are the people? All of these questions are questions that need answers. And I hope that, just like you said, we'll come together, rally round one another and be able to see what can we do. Even though somebody that is under drugs, what can you do as an individual to help he or she to come out of it? So just like you said, I hope that we do
like
the right
concerning the society, because this is really deep, like there's no area in which you live that you don't know somebody who is selling drugs to your children. What are the society doing about that? In my area, I know, like, of course, you move, you see what is happening. What are your children wherever they enter? You won't know when they will start mingling with somebody who is using drugs, and they introduce them to things like that. So when you see such happening in your society, don't take the law in your hands. What you have to do is report, play your part. You know where NDLEA office is. You know this where these officers are. Report, oh, this person is going to spoil our community. This person is responsible for selling drugs in our community. Come and do something about it, because I don't know who my child is going out with. I don't know who are his friends. I don't know when he is expensive.
Of course.
And that's why we have many of them on the street, because an average Nigeria cannot afford rehabilitation with their salary, with strike here and there. And so we need to wake up as Nigerians and a community.
Of course.
Still on the Matrix newspaper, why I failed as Nigeria's Minister of Education, Malam Adamu admits. Arsenal qualified for round of 16 as Man United earn play. $6 billion Mambila project arrest all power minister from 2017 till date, Huriwa tax EFCC. And the big story is still on flooding. See top 3 states most affected. Clark Humanitarian Affairs Minister exchange hot words. President Buhari inaugurates presidential committee to tackle flooding. Lecturer express shock as federal government pays half salary. Northern Christian clerics throw weight behind Tinubu and Shetima's ticket. History made as Nigeria's Amanda Ezubuke becomes Brigadier General Army. APC to back off presidential campaign rally should take this report and studies seriously. We used to think it's something for old people. Now we know inaugurating the first hunt in Port Harcourt yesterday. And that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On what's the same Nigerian Purchasing Manager Index slipped to 53.6. That you can find on page 25 of the New Telegraph newspaper. APC damage plunged Nigeria into troubled time. This is coming from Okowa, that is the running mate of Atiku. I didn't say Adebanjo is no longer acting leader of Afenifere. Special new health alert for Nigeria. And I hope that we take that new alert seriously. We saw that of where the refs is talking about Ebola and warning Nigerians not to make a trip to Uganda because they are actually having a very high rate of Ebola patients over there. So I hope that we work together. Let it not be like that of the COVID-19. We were very comfortable that it won't get to us. That was why we're actually hit by that COVID the way we were hit, even though they did their best and then we're not really hit that much, but then we cannot underline all the fact that we were affected by it. So I hope that with this US issuing a special health alert for Nigeria, will not take it the same way we are taking that of the security alert, that at the end of the day we still saw that some terrorists were arrested in Abuja. So we should keep our fingers crossed. We still have cholera here with us. Lassa fever is still there. Monkeypox, we're still fighting with it, and we know there's no cure for monkeypox even as of date. So I hope that we just do all we need to do. Presently it's already the dry season, and you know what that means, right? Lots of airborne diseases are walking in the air. So I hope that we do all we have to do, keep ourselves, you know, safe, because our doctors are leaving. You know what that means, right? When you get to the hospital. So you have to do your best to actually keep yourself healthy and also your family. Still on New Telegraph newspaper, the big story, which is on 2023, INEC bans, you know, rec from government houses. Unofficial meetings with politicians, says they own individuals nothing. Retaliate use of BVAs for voter accreditation. Real-time upload of results to the IRA on election day. And then Oshun is saying tribunal admits the BVA's report. Adeleke alleged forged certificate. And we have on 2023 State House to judges, law is your master, not Buhari and governors. Rep summon security agency head for abandoning DICON. Charges COI to produce arms to fight insurgents. And on 2023, APC to flag off presidential campaign rally in Jos. Lagos chapter inaugurates 163-member campaign council. And we have the picture story here. There is a New Telegraph award call to greater service to Nigeria. Namasa boss Jimo, and you can read more of that story on page 4. Downside where we have, I failed as education minister. This is coming from Adamu. Site rise in out-of-school children, recurrent academic disruption in varsity, blame state education, find on page 4. And I find this story quite interesting, the fact that not only is it on one paper, but almost all of the papers is reflecting that. And if Adamu is admitting that he has failed as the Minister of Education, the fact that he is the longest serving minister so far, what is he planning to do to actually rectify so that that sector is more like the heart of the nation? If you should treat that sector carelessly, then it's just a matter of time. Every other sector will start crumbling, because if you cannot graduate good graduates out to the society, we'll have half-baked lecturers, half-baked graduates. At the end of the evening, our doctors, you go and then they don't even know what they are supposed to do. No wonder when you go to the hospital right now, when you say, especially most of these young doctors, you don't even want them to treat you because you feel they are not qualified enough to do what is expected. Before they give you one, they have to run to the senior doctor to ask him, what will I do? This is, and things like that. It's a shame when you go to some of our hospitals, this is what you need. And this is just one out of order. Are we going to talk about the buildings that have been collapsing because we are having architects that don't even know what they are supposed to do? And other, and this go around to other, occupations in the society. So I believe that in as much as he has admitted, what is he planning to do? And whoever will be taken after him, it's not about blaming states, ministers, commissioners of education, even though everybody is supposed to be on his or her to work. But I believe that this is a time where you go back inwardly and say, what can I do to make things better? If I have been started with this responsibility, and the people I'm working with, if they are not, being effective enough, I think it's high time you sack them, get fresh people that can actually work. With that, it will keep everybody on his toes to do the right thing. So we look forward to see what the Minister of Education is planning to do and how that sector will be rehabilitated so that better things will happen there too.
It's not too late for him to start doing something about it. It's not too late for you to bring out a new strategy and a plan, hoping that your successor will take over from that and then continue from there. Like when you realize you didn't do your best, it's a good thing to admit it. I think it's honorable, although very annoying. Just as you said, this sector is dear to our heart. You can't be giving this very long period of time and still fail. It is sad and disappointing, but still yet something can be done. Start something that someone can come and take over from and say they will continue from there, and then we can recover, that sector can recover within a period of time. So since you have discovered that, then you should start doing something about correcting what you didn't do in this long period of time. You cannot rush it. It's a gradual process, but step by step we'll get there.
Of course. Let's look at other stories still on New Telegraph. I think at 4 and 5, and we have a picture, a study downside of the paper that says study ties majority of shampoos to cancer-causing benzene. So if you want to know more about the right shampoos to use for your hair and what to do to avoid that, you can read that study on page 26 of the New Telegraph newspaper, and that's all on the New Telegraph.
On the Nation newspaper, starting with the big story, Atiku firm in row of over $5.9 million visa bill payment. And the writer says company writes PDP candidate. No agreement signed, says ex-vice president lawyer. Your Excellency, sir, you have intentionally refused and neglected to honor your part of the service agreement despite repeated demands from our client. And if this story interests you, you can continue with it on page 4. And on the top side of the paper, Tinubu donates 100 million naira to Kogi flood victims. Federal government blames states for rise in out-of-school children. Oyo presents 310 billion naira budget. Renewed Hope Action Plan is authentic, says APC PCC. Ekiti to spend 113.6 billion naira next year, and you can read that on page 6. Ogun PDP crisis deepens with explosion of Adeputu and 4 others, and you can continue with that on page 6. Still on the Nation newspaper, Abuja hotels guests for security profiling over terror alert. Military needs no prompting to defend Nigeria, says the defense headquarters. Still on Ford, relief likely for farmers, and we hope so. You can continue to read that on page 3. 52 Ijebu traditional rulers endorse Obiodun for second term, and you can read that on page 6. And that's what the picture story on the Nation newspaper is all about. And on the downside of the paper, premium on aircraft slashed by insurers. Pro-robbers kill NECO official in page 2. And that's all the story on the Nation newspaper.
Thank you so much, Richard. I think at this moment we're ripe for a break, so we'd like to take a time out so that we can actually let you digest some of the stories and also drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube pages. There are quite a lot. I really love you to, talk about the fact that federal government is blaming state for the out-of-school children. Are you in support of that, or what do you feel, even though the Minister of Education have accepted that he has failed? And also we still have the crisis going on between the giants, APC, PDP, and also internal crisis in these various parties. So we really love you to also drop Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still your morning program, The Dailies on Echo Television International, and we've been looking at various stories that have been trending on our papers. We saw where the Minister of Education have admitted that he has failed, and looking at the number of out-of-school children, and the federal government is actually blaming the state. So what do you feel about that? We really love you to drop your comment. What do you think is the way forward to actually look into this sector that have any allocations that have been sent to them, and also likely there might be a relief for farmers? So we really love to hear from you, or if you have received a relief, we'd love you to actually drop and let us know so that we can actually applaud the government for the right step in the right direction. I'm still with Rachel Tanzi, my co-host. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, let's move further to other papers, and I'll be taking the Nigerian News Direct. Agro Cargo Airport, Ogun to turn sold of $800 million Biodun for the second term. And from Kogi State, remembering Steve Koje Achamba for 23 years after. So you can read that story also. The big story that is on the Nigerian News Direct is on bad roads. Federal government approves 48.518 billion naira for urgent road repairs and maintenance. And Fashoda is saying more jobs coming. So I hope that this morning we actually will be really go into this road maintenance. Abuja Kaduna Road, there are lots of roads, and even that are really spoiled, and it's very difficult for farmers to even transport their goods. The fact that we are looking at flood has done much. So I hope that this money will actually go into fixing the road, maintaining it, and then we'll be able to have a very, this will even attract investors to love to stay, because it will make business very easy, to transport their, stuff from one place to another. So we look forward to seeing that coming from the federal government.
I would like to use Plateau State as a case study when it comes to road. Like, we could see how road give access to many businesses. 10 years ago, Plateau State wasn't like this, where you wouldn't even see a plaza. There is a plaza now there, where you won't see residency. There is now. So roads are very vital, and it's very important, because I can see how development came to us because of road access. Businesses are thriving where on a normal day they wouldn't even thrive in the first place. For anybody who have known jobs for long, or Plateau State, it connects you from one place to another. It just gives access, and with that access, it makes businesses to thrive. It makes life easier. It brings development, and of course it will bring investors, because after all, there is access to where they want to start their business and where they want to go to. So we shouldn't. It's really sad when we see that we wait until our roads are completely spoiled, constructing a new road, so that we won't have to be starting from the beginning, spending a lot as if there was never a road there. But when we leave it to get the road, you can't just create something and then leave it there. It will spoil, and you will spend a lot again when fixing it. So I hope the government really looks into that.
Yeah. And I also hope that the contractors will be giving this project will actually give their best. We've seen where a road is being constructed and then give it 5-6 months. It's not durable again, because the materials that are being used are under, so really we have to do something about that, because networking is very important. Still on the Nigerian News Direct, we are having UBA retaliate support for SMEs, maintain headline sponsor for Lagos International Trade Fair. We have a column from Femi Additional, so you can read that on the back page of the paper. We have 2 picture stories, so do well to grab the Nigerian News Direct. Read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
On the Business Day newspaper, flood victims face loss of claims and on the reassurance ignorance, and you can continue with that on page 27. And the big story, passport office to open in hotels and banks amidst delay. How Nigerian students can navigate UK's housing shortage, and you can turn to page 4. And if you're a UK student and know how you can go about that. Afrobeat artists dominate Black Panther Mandela's Wakanda Forever album, and you can turn to page 4 for that entertainment news. Still on the Business Day, Nollywood writes on Japa wave to deepen global footprint. CBN currency redesign political has no economic basis. This is coming from Obasike, and you can read that on page 4, and that's all the news on Business Day.
You know, Rachel, even though we've said that, but this story, this flood victim faced lots of claim under insurance ignorance. Lots of them don't even have insurance. So that is to say that for them to be able to even get maybe relief from the government, you must be able to lay claim on what really did you lose. So imagine for a common farmer in the village that did not even know he or she is supposed to actually have insurance. How will he now, you know, lay claims on it? I hope that more, you know, sensitization needs to be done for people to know that you really need to insure everything you have. Even here in the urban area, very few people actually have insurance on their properties, not even talk about their farmland. So I hope that this will raise an awareness that insurance company need to do much more, because people really need to have insurance for their properties. 19, Wike revokes Atiku campaign chairman's plot. Tinubu amend timetable just to host the first rally. So we hope that you keep your fingers. Security have to be very tight to protect lives while this rally goes on. Afenifere senior chief to settle Fatoranti and Adebanjo role. The big story for the Punch: federal government plans supplementary budget over rising inflation and depreciation. The rider following that, dollar closes at 895 naira on Thursday. More taxes, fewer incentive for Nigerians in 2023. Federal government molds Chinese Portuguese loan for railway project. And you know, this is my fear that by the weekend, I just hope that it won't be 1,000 naira to a dollar. With the way it's moving as of Thursday, it's 895. I won't be surprised today to be 900 naira. So I hope we really do something, because the rate at which our naira keeps falling, it really gives me cause to worry. What really is the problem? Back was then where we said it was because of the oil theft, but I think beyond the oil theft, there are underlying issues. Some policies are just not right. So I really need all the people, expertise, analysts. We really need to look deeply into what is really the cause of it, because our problem in Nigeria is quite complicated.
It is.
And I hope that we'll be able to iron that you know, out, so that we can have our, you know, our naira back. I don't want us to trade, because as it is presently, Ghana is rated the worst currency in the world. So the way we're looking, I hope we don't get to that point where our own currency will also be ranked the worst. So I hope that we look into that, so that our currency will really have value. And then I think we also have to look into exporting. We have to look inwardly. Let's start making exports rather than always importing. To as little as even fish and chicken we import into the country. It's sad. Something we can actually, you know, do and make on our own. So we look forward to doing that too. We have the picture story where we can see the Nigerian-born woman, Amanda, becomes the U.S. Army General, and this is really a great one. Downside of the paper, we have Lagos untouchable, Aberos enjoy government backing. This is coming from drivers' president, and we saw where the drivers are still on strike because of extortion, and we are seeing the driver president here is saying that they're enjoying backing from the government. So we hope more will be done to check what really is the problem. If there is a union, they are supposed to have the backing of the government and not the other way around. So we look forward to seeing that be rectified in Lagos. UK remand 28-year-old Nigeria for stabbing mother to death. That is really as a result of, I think, mental problem that need to be addressed. ASU summon NEC meeting over half salary. So we hope that also will be looked into. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, still on 2023, APC should be apologizing, not campaigning. This is coming from Utomi, and that's the big story on the Daily Times. Kanu asked Supreme Court to set aside appeal court ruling suspending his release. And at the downside of the paper, establishing varsity's distraction to your core mandate, Senate tells ministry, and you can read that on page 2. Buhari commissions Nigeria Cameroon joint border post and bridge, and you can find that on page 3. State House budget 7.20 billion naira for routine new recs, and you can read that on page 9, on page 5, page 3 of the Daily Times, and that's all the news on the Daily Times.
2023, Northern Christian cleric endorsed Tinubu and Shaitima ticket. On terror alert, we don't need the U.S. prompting to defend Nigeria. This is coming from the defense headquarters. Drug baron assassinating NDLEA operative. And on 2023 general election, our loyalty is to Nigerians. The INEC chairman issued strong warning to the new regs. Ahead of the Nigerian next general election, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mamu Yakubu, has charged the resident electoral commissioners to ensure strict compliance with the law. Rep Summer Security Agency heads over refusal to patronize the NDCON. And still on the trap phone, Emirates suspend flight into Nigeria indefinitely. Stay of execution judgment, Nnamdi Kanu approaches Supreme Court, appeals the judgment. And the last story, which is still on Adamu admitting, I have failed as education minister. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On this day newspaper, Buhari rejoices with Femi Otedola on 60th birthday. UN looks Obasanjo's role as Ethiopia Tigray signed peace deal, and you can find that on page 5. Still on 2023, elections won't be decided in Paris or Dubai. APC mocks PDP Atiku, and the writer says opposition party is drowning. Kicks off campaign in just November 15, and you can continue with that on page 15. And the big story on this day, Malaya's Cole Shetima says presidential villa not for bandits. The writer says promises to support death penalty for kidnappers. We are yet to resolve PDP crisis, but we've moved ahead. Declares no cabal will rule his government. And still on this day paper, convening at Impact Investment in Lagos, and that's the picture story there, and you can continue with that on this day newspaper, and that's all the news.
You know, it's really sad, you know, Rachel, the rate at which these politicians keep exchanging words. And it brings to mind, like, really, what's the problem here? Atiku said he doesn't want cabals, you know, in his team. And we're seeing here, Shaitima said that it was their turn. I think yesterday on the paper it was there. Here we are seeing Dino Milai is quoting Shaitima, says presidential villa not for bandits. You begin to ask, do they know something that we are not aware of? Exactly. Possibly because the languages they use is kind of trying to, you know, but I hope that INEC is watching, because these are part of the thing that was prohibited. They shouldn't do that. No using, no backlashing of people, no abusing, name calling and all of that. But we can see that going on. So I hope INEC is actually, you know, closely watching, and I hope to see the authorities that are supposed to regulate all of these campaigns will actually take, you know, notice of all of these things, because this is really sad. We said this over and over. Nigerians are not interested in your personal interests, whatever you guys have done. Nigerians are not interested. All they want is bring out the blueprint. Let us see how you hope to turn Nigeria better. I mean, we've seen other nations that was worse than Nigeria, and they're doing much more better. I mean, we can also do that. So this is what we want to see, not name calling or anything of that form.
You said maybe they know more. Of course they know. They can't just come out and say it, of course, because if you say mine, I will say yours, and then the fight will be unbearable. But obviously, when you see the kind of slang they use and the things they say to each other, they mean something else. We might not understand it, but they know what they're saying. And of course, they are trying to be careful because they are being warned. So they won't outrightly come out and say what it is that they want to say, but they'll rather put it in terms like that and say, yes, of course, they know more than we do know, and from how they speak to each other, of course. But yes, we don't need that back and forth for them. That's not what we don't care about your personal issues and your personal beef. We care about Nigeria and what you have to offer us.
Well, let's move to the first newspaper. $700 million trap fund. Emirates suspend flight to Nigeria indefinitely. And we have what Fatoranti endorsement of Tinubu means. This is coming from Murik. That you can see all the stories here that say PDP crisis, Atiku forecloses reconciliation with Wike, aggrieved governor, says I have moved on. I don't have worries about that that anymore. This is coming from Atiku. And then he also argues it's improper to change party leadership while elections are fast approaching. So you can get more of that on the First News newspaper. The 7th ATAF General Assembly, NAMI challenged African government on effective revenue utilization. Troops neutralize 44 stubborn Boko Haram terrorists, apprehend 50. Ogun governor threatened monarchs not to receive our candidate. This is coming from the ADC, and this is an alleged. Tinubu Shaitima should apologize for irresponsible comments. This is coming from Atiku. And we have federal government pays ASU half salaries for October, clears medical lecturer salary backlog. And on the terror alert, Girls Brigade troop raid arrests 60 at Abuja illegal mining sites. Army burns soldiers fighting Boko Haram from leave, traveling to see family members. And we have Nnamdi Kanu praise the Supreme Court to dismiss stay of execution order. Ethiopia Wearing Party sees hostility as Obasanjo lead peace talk. Tinubu commend ex-president. And the last story on the paper said 19 recs sworn in by the INEC chairman. And that's all on the First News.
On the Guardian newspaper, CUPP Tinubu hail Obasanjo as parties announce ceasefire in Ethiopian civil war. Stop backing infrastructure loans with natural resources, Adesina warns African governors. Kanu takes battle for freedom to Supreme Court. Tinubu promises to give Kogi people sense of belonging, and you can turn to page 27 for that. And the big story on the Guardian newspaper, after Emirates more airlines to quit over $500 million trapped funds, UBN reps interventions have not helped crisis. Emirates departure would hurt local travelers more, and travel agency says we are not threatened by withdrawals. This is coming from Siriki. Still on the Guardian newspaper, months after Kuje jail attack, Buhari's comprehensive report yet to surface, and you can read the big story on pages 4 and 8. And on the downside of the paper, Fasoranti makes U-turn, says Adebanjo remains Afenifera leader. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Business Standard newspaper for Friday. We have war bite into Bangladesh corporate earning. You can see that round on the the graph bar charts and over there, earning per share and all of that. So for those who are interested, you can read that story. And we have trade deficit widens to $7.54 billion as imports still remain high despite curbs. So you can see the Bangladesh balance of payments in billions and then the deficit they are having. And we have on the IMF advised the BPC petrol backlash to adjust fuel prices in line with the global market. Imran Khan shot in Sheen in assassination attempt, and we have other stories that are flying on the front page and also much more inside the paper. So you can do well to get the TBS as a Friday Standard paper and read any of the stories that's of interest to you.
On the Daily Express, our international news, bomb victim Safi didn't get a chance to survive, and you can see that on page 6 and 9. Stormy times ahead as UK faces longest recession, and there's a picture of Kate's mission to help vulnerable, and you can see that on page 99. And that's all the news on Daily Express.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We can see that recession is not just in Nigeria, but it seems to be a global issue, and you know, with UK facing all of that. So we just hope that it's a national or it is a global problem, and we can actually overcome it. With the flood, I think that has really affected climate change and all of that. So we look forward to seeing better things being done for the country. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to our viewers, and thank you to everyone that have made this program a success. Until we come your way again next week, do have a blessed weekend ahead.